Michael Wittmann was born on April 22, 1914, in the quiet village of Vogelthal, Bavaria, a place where life moved slow. Fields stretched for miles, and children grew up learning the rhythm of earth, not war. He was the son of Johann Wittmann, a modest farmer, and Crescentia Wittmann, a quiet, hard-working woman whose life revolved around her children and the farm. Their house was small, wooden, always cold in winter, but full of discipline and structure. As a boy, Michael wasn't loud, rebellious, or troublesome. He was observant, always watching how things worked. Carts, plows, engines, anything that moved. Neighbors often found him staring at passing trucks, like they were magical creatures. His father once said, "Michael notices everything, even things I miss." He grew up during the tough years of the Weimar Republic, when Germany suffered poverty, unemployment, and humiliation after WWII. His family struggled too. Some days the farm barely produced enough to survive. Yet Michael never complained. He spent his days herding cows, repairing tools, and walking miles to school in rain and snow. Teachers described him as quiet, disciplined, endlessly patient, qualities that would later make him a deadly tank commander. The first spark. By age 10, Michael developed an unusual fascination with vehicles. Every time a motorcycle or truck passed through Vogelthal, he would run behind it until he couldn't breathe. One evening he told his mother, "Machines. They listen, they obey. They don't lie." It was a strange statement for a child, but it revealed something deeper. Michael's mind saw order in chaos, control in movement. His future was already forming. Life in a changing Germany. As he entered his teenage years, Germany was changing fast. Political rallies, rising tensions, uniforms appearing everywhere. But young Michael stayed focused on one dream: to escape the small village and join the military, where machines larger than life waited for him. He spent hours sketching vehicles, imagining himself driving something powerful. A truck, an armored car, anything. Behind his calm exterior, a restless fire had begun, the moment that defined him. In 1933, when Michael was 19, he saw a military convoy pass through a nearby town. Armored cars, engines roaring, soldiers standing with purpose. Something inside him clicked. He whispered to himself, "One day, I'll be in one of those." And from that moment on, Michael Wittmann's path was set. A boy born in a quiet Bavarian village was about to become one of the most feared tank aces in UT. By 1933, Michael Wittmann had left the quiet fields of Vogelthal behind. Germany was transforming rapidly. The rise of the Nazi regime, the military revival, and the glimmer of opportunity for young men with ambition and discipline. Michael saw this as his moment. He joined the Wehrmacht, entering training with a mix of curiosity and determination. The barracks were stark, filled with the scent of leather boots, gun oil, and discipline. Cadets marched in precise formation, their faces reflecting focus and resolve. For Michael, it was more than marching or drilling. It was about machines, strategy, and mastering control. Tanks fascinated him, hulking beasts of steel and power, waiting for a mind clever enough to command them. During his first exercises, instructors noticed something unusual. While most cadets struggled with coordination and technical knowledge, Michael seemed to anticipate every mechanical response. A tank wheel stuck in the mud? He knew how to extract it without halting the unit. A misfiring gun? He diagnosed it almost instinctively. Fellow cadets whispered, "That Wittmann, he sees the machine before it even moves." Discipline, patience, and observation became his mantra. Michael spent nights studying engine parts, ammunition handling, and tactical maps. He drew diagrams, measured angles, and practiced maneuvers in the mud late into the evening. The instructors, impressed by his intellect and composure, began giving him more responsibility. He led small units in training exercises, demonstrating calm under pressure, sharp instincts, and uncanny precision. One evening, as the sun set over the training grounds, Michael wrote in his journal, "Every machine has a rhythm. To master it is to control a battlefield. To control a battlefield is to protect those who follow you." By 1936, Michael was not just a soldier. He was a leader in training, a young man who understood the delicate balance between man, machine, and strategy. His colleagues began to recognize a truth that would define his career. Michael Wittmann was destined for more than ordinary service. Even as Europe edged toward war, the young man from Vogelthal had found his calling. The roar of engines, the smell of oil, and the weight of steel were no longer curiosities. They were the instruments of his destiny. The boy who had run after trucks in the Bavarian fields had now become a soldier, a thinker, and a future tank ace in the making. As the late 1930s approached, Europe simmered with tension. Germany's military expansion accelerated, and the specter of war loomed closer with each passing day. For Michael Wittmann, these years were a crucible of skill, patience, and learning. He trained rigorously on every type of tank available in the Wehrmacht arsenal. The Panzer I and II were small, but each exercise taught lessons about mobility, firepower, and coordination. Wittmann was relentless. He would spend hours after drills, analyzing maneuvers, memorizing maps, and testing the limits of his vehicles. In training exercises, Michael displayed an unusual combination of mechanical intuition and tactical foresight. While other cadets relied on strict orders, he anticipated obstacles, adapting in real time to changing terrain or simulated enemy attacks. In one legendary drill, a simulated ambush trapped Wittmann's unit. While others panicked, he calmly repositioned his tanks, countered the flanking maneuver, and successfully destroyed the enemy target in the simulation. His instructors took note. This man thinks like the tank, moves like the battlefield, and strikes like lightning. Beyond the mechanics, Wittmann was learning leadership. He listened to his men, understood their strengths and weaknesses, and earned their loyalty through respect, not authority. His calm demeanor inspired confidence even in tense exercises, a trait that would later define his combat leadership. He also cultivated a strategic mind. Nights were spent poring over historical battles, tactical manuals, and armored warfare strategies. He studied the French campaigns of WWII, analyzed tank formations, and wrote meticulous notes on maneuvering under fire. In a letter home, he confided, "A tank is not merely metal and gunpowder. It is a living instrument, demanding intuition, patience, and respect. To command it well is to command life and death." By the eve of World War II, Michael Wittmann had evolved from a quiet village boy into a precise, disciplined, and fearless tank officer. His training was complete, his mind sharp, and his instincts honed. Europe would soon test him, and the young tank officer from Vogelthal was ready to become one of the most feared Panzer Aces in history. September 1939. Europe erupted into the chaos of World War II. Michael Wittmann, now a trained tank officer, was thrust into the storm of modern mechanized warfare. The quiet fields of Bavaria and the disciplined barracks of his youth had prepared him, but nothing could fully replicate the roar of engines, the thunder of artillery, and the smoke-choked air of a battlefield. Assigned to the 1st Panzer Division, Wittman participated in the invasion of France in Aachen 1940. The advance was swift, a blitzkrieg, a lightning war that overwhelmed the Allies. Tanks rolled across the countryside, leaving fields scarred and towns trembling under the weight of mechanized power. Wittman commanded a Panzer III with precision. He drove with calm determination, analyzing enemy positions, directing fire, and coordinating with infantry and artillery. Each maneuver was a dance of steel and strategy. His training, meticulous study, and instincts coalesced into fluid battlefield intuition. During one engagement near Villers-Bocage, Wittmann's unit faced unexpected resistance. Enemy anti-tank guns opened fire, shells screaming through the air, while other commanders faltered. Wittmann quickly assessed the terrain, used the panzer's mobility to his advantage, and neutralized the threat with calculated shots. His men watched in awe. He doesn't just command the tank, he becomes it. Beyond tactical skill, Wittmann's leadership shone. He moved alongside his crews, offering guidance and reassurance under fire. Soldiers knew they could trust him. His calm, deliberate actions inspired confidence, even in the face of chaos. Letters to his family revealed his reflections. The battlefield is a teacher, merciless yet honest. Every maneuver, every decision carries life and death. To act wisely is to honor those who follow you. By the end of the French campaign, Michael Wittmann had begun to earn his reputation. Not yet the legendary tank ace he would become, but a promising officer whose precision, foresight, and calm under fire marked him for greatness. The world had changed, and so had he. The boy from Vogelthal now walked among giants of steel, fire, and strategy. A prelude to the deadly dance that awaited him on the eastern and western fronts. By 1944, Michael Wittmann had become a name whispered among Allied tank crews and German soldiers alike. But it was the Battle of Villers-Bocage that would cement his reputation as a Panzer Ace without equal. The French countryside lay before him, quiet and seemingly peaceful, but it hid a deadly maze of ambushes, anti-tank positions, and enemy infantry. Wittmann's Tiger R, a monstrous machine of steel and fire, rumbled forward, each track leaving a trail of dust across the sunlit fields. The ambush came suddenly. British Cromwell tanks and infantry emerged from hidden hedgerows. Many commanders would have faltered, but Wittmann reacted with instantaneous precision. Targeting the enemy one by one, he destroyed tanks, vehicles, and artillery positions with ruthless efficiency. His mind, calculating trajectories, armor angles, and distance faster than any man could comprehend. Soldiers recount that he moved with almost supernatural calm. It was as if the battlefield obeyed his will. Hours passed like minutes as Wittmann's Tiger tore through enemy lines. His tactical genius combined with intimate knowledge of his machine. Its strengths, weaknesses, and quirks allowed him to dominate a battlefield far larger than a single tank should have been able to control. Yet, beneath the carnage, Wittmann remained disciplined. He avoided unnecessary risk to his men, coordinated with his company, and maintained situational awareness that would seem impossible to anyone else. His journal reflected his thoughts. A tank is not a weapon. It is an extension of my mind. To master it is to control the tide of battle. To control it recklessly is to court disaster. The Battle of Villers-Bocage became legendary. Michael Wittmann alone had destroyed over a dozen Allied vehicles, halting an advance and inspiring both fear and respect. By now, he was no longer just an officer. He was a symbol of German armored warfare, a man who turned steel into an instrument of precision, terror, and artistry. But fame carried weight. Each victory drew attention, and the Allies adapted, learning to fear and anticipate. The cunning of the desert-born strategist, of the European theater, Michael Wittmann. This chapter marks the height of his tactical genius, the moment where careful preparation, mastery of machinery, and unflinching courage fused into legend. After Villers-Bocage, Michael Wittmann's fame spread like wildfire among German and Allied forces alike. His reputation as a Panzer Ace grew, but so did the scrutiny and pressure. Every move he made was watched, every strategy analyzed. The war demanded perfection, and Wittmann had no choice but to deliver. He spent hours studying maps of Normandy, anticipating enemy advances and planning ambushes. The Tiger, under his command, was more than steel and guns. It was an extension of his mind. Each turret rotation, each shot fired, calculated with razor-sharp precision. The days were long, blistering, and fraught with danger. He moved through the countryside, coordinating multiple units, observing the terrain, and adapting to unpredictable Allied maneuvers. His men trusted him implicitly. They followed his every command because he was both fearless and calculated, a rare combination that inspired both awe and loyalty. Wittmann reflected in his journal, "Victory is never given. It is carved out through patience, understanding, and the courage to act when the moment arrives. To hesitate is to die." In combat, his tactical brilliance was undeniable. He exploited every weakness, every misstep by the enemy, and turned chaos into advantage. Yet Wittmann never let fame cloud judgment. He made careful decisions to protect his men, understanding that courage without care is meaningless. The pressure weighed heavily, but it refined him further. The boy, who once ran behind trucks in Vogelthal, had evolved into a master of mechanized warfare, capable of orchestrating death and strategy in perfect harmony. Chapter 6 highlights the intense preparation, meticulous strategy, and moral discipline that defined Wittmann as both a lethal tactician and a leader who understood the weight of command. War is more than strategy. It is endurance, trust, and shared courage. For Michael Wittmann, these qualities were as vital as his skill with a tank gun. He walked among his men in the Normandy countryside, listening, observing, and mentoring. He understood that a tank commander is only as strong as the crew he leads. Amid constant artillery fire, mud, and the roar of engines, Wittmann never retreated from danger. He was always present with his men, offering guidance, encouragement, and reassurance. Soldiers later recalled, "He didn't just command us, he was with us. Every step, every shot, every decision." This chapter shows the human side of the desert-born strategist. While his mind orchestrated battles with precision, his heart measured every risk, every life, and every consequence. Wittmann's crew respected him not only for his genius but for his fairness and courage. In quiet moments he reflected, "A leader is nothing without those who follow. To inspire loyalty, one must earn it through action, care, and shared purpose." Even amidst victories and the chaos of combat, Michael remained grounded. He maintained discipline, fostered camaraderie, and reinforced the importance of teamwork, qualities that elevated his effectiveness far beyond the abilities of a single man. By 1944, Wittmann had become more than a tank ace. He was a symbol of courage, leadership, and unflinching resolve, admired by his men and respected, even feared, by the enemy. This chapter captures the balance between strategic genius and humanity, showing that leadership in war is as much about character as it is about skill. The summer of 1944 brought relentless combat. The Allies had landed in Normandy, and Michael Wittmann faced some of the most challenging battles of his career. Every ridge, hedgerow, and road became a potential ambush. Every decision could mean life or death for him and his crew. In his Tiger Y, Wittmann moved with uncanny precision. Each turret adjustment, each shot, each maneuver was calculated, reflecting years of training, experience, and instinct. His mind worked constantly, anticipating enemy positions and planning counterattacks with deadly accuracy. Soldiers often remarked, "He could see the battlefield before it even existed." Despite the pressure, Wittmann remained a model of composure and discipline. He coordinated multiple units, communicated effectively under fire, and maintained a calm presence that inspired those around him. His crew trusted him implicitly, knowing he would take every measure to maximize their survival while achieving their objectives. In his personal journal, Wittmann wrote, "A battlefield is a test of mind and spirit. Every decision carries weight. Every hesitation can be fatal. To endure, one must think faster, act decisively, and remain steadfast." Chapter 8 highlights the intensity, danger, and brilliance of Michael Wittmann in Normandy, a time when his tactical genius, courage, and leadership were tested against overwhelming odds. The relentless campaign showcased not only his ability to dominate mechanized warfare, but also the resilience and determination that defined him as a soldier and leader. By late 1944, Michael Wittmann faced the ultimate challenges of his career. The Normandy countryside was a battlefield of tension, smoke, and relentless pressure. Enemy forces adapted, defenses hardened, and the Allies brought overwhelming numbers and firepower. Wittmann, however, remained undaunted. He positioned his Tiger Y with calculated precision, using the terrain to his advantage. Hedgerows, ridges, and open fields became a chessboard, and every move he made carried lethal intent. During intense engagements, Wittmann destroyed multiple enemy tanks, halted advances, and executed maneuvers that seemed impossible. His crew followed every command with absolute trust, knowing their survival depended on his cool-headed brilliance. Even as the Allies tightened their grip, Wittmann's tactical genius allowed him to exploit weaknesses, anticipate attacks, and counter with lethal efficiency. He often reflected on the weight of command. Every choice bears consequence. To act hastily is to condemn. To hesitate is to perish. The battlefield tests both mind and heart, yet the pressures were immense. Ammunition dwindled. Reinforcements were slow, and the enemy learned from his previous victories. Wittmann knew that every day, every engagement, could be his last. Chapter 9 captures the tense, desperate, and heroic moments of Michael Wittmann's final campaigns. Here, strategy, courage, and instinct intersected under the most extreme conditions, revealing the extraordinary mind and relentless spirit of a true Panzer Ace. The boy from Vogelthal had become a legend, a commander whose brilliance and courage were etched into history forever. The sun dipped low over the Normandy fields. Smoke lingered in the air, punctuated by the distant roar of artillery. Michael Wittmann, standing beside his Tiger Y, surveyed the battlefield one last time. Every ridge, hedge, and scar of war bore witness to his genius, courage, and unyielding spirit. Wittmann's career had been defined by precision, fearlessness, and the seamless fusion of mind and machine. He had mastered the Tiger Y, leading it and his crew through impossible odds, destroying enemy armor, and commanding respect from both allies and adversaries. But his legacy was not merely numbers or victories. It was leadership, courage under fire, loyalty to his men, and strategic brilliance that reshaped armored warfare. Soldiers who served with him remembered him not only as a fearsome tactician but as a man of integrity, focus, and humanity. In his final journal entries, Wittmann reflected, "A true commander is not measured by trophies or kills, but by the lives he influences, the respect he earns, and the courage he inspires." Even after his death, Michael Wittmann's name became synonymous with the deadly art of armored warfare. Military academies studied his maneuvers. Tank crews revered his tactics. Historians debated his genius. The boy from Vogelthal, who once ran after trucks, had become a legend of steel, strategy, and courage. The Normandy fields eventually quieted, but the story of Michael Wittmann endured. A tale of relentless skill, unwavering courage, and a mind that saw the battlefield with unmatched clarity. The Panzer Ace had left his mark on history, immortalized not just in victory, but in the very essence of mechanized warfare itself.